Hey friends, I'm just going to share with you just a variation I'm thinking about implementing and sharing the three circles. And it came from actually a spiritual conversation with someone, as someone who's actually a legitimate seeker who's been reading the Bible a lot. And he made the comment, he says, I never see Jesus in his life and ministry talking about sacrifice. He says, you always take me to the Old Testament to talk about sacrifice. And I thought, well, okay, what do you mean? So I kept asking some questions. He said, look at Jesus. He just healed people. The woman who touched his robe was just healed. And he started talking about, I feel more comfortable seeing Jesus as a healer rather than a sacrifice. And so when we think about the complexity and the density and the beautifulness of the gospel, Jesus is a great physician. So just here's a really shaky, only been thinking about this a little bit. I've not actually exercised this a lot, but perhaps God has something in this as us presenting Jesus as healer. Yeah, so we don't have to look very far to see that, the world that we live in, it's sick. Uh, it's broken. We see physical illnesses. We see emotional pain, mental exhaustion, and deep down, we know that something's not right. We know that we're sick. We think things we shouldn't think. We do things we shouldn't do. And deep down, we have this spiritual sickness. And just like when we have a cold, we try to fix our symptoms and we pursue things that we think will heal us of the sickness, but they fall short. We pursue things like money. We think if we just make enough money, this sickness that I feel will go away. We think that we can chase relationships. We think we can chase after accolades, that this would make us feel better. Ultimately, we think that we can chase anything that makes us feel good, but we find it lacking because the underlying symptoms are not on the surface, but they're in our soul. And so all of the efforts that we try don't address the root cause of the pain and the sickness. But in the beginning, it wasn't that way. In the beginning, God created man and woman, and they were whole. They were complete. And in wholeness and completeness, they knew that they were loved, and they loved one another without the effects of our brokenness and sickness. And so we have to ask the question, why are we so sick if a perfect and loving God created the world and us as people? What is it that brought us away from God's design and purpose? Well, we ultimately ran from God's design and purpose to follow our own ways. We're sick because that is the nature of humans. By nature, we have been affected by the sickness of sin. And in our own power, there's no way to escape the sickness of sin. Oftentimes, we think sin is what we do, but actually, sin is inside of us. We have been infected and effected by sin. God saw our suffering, He saw our sickness, and He came down in the person of Jesus. He's the great physician who didn't come to treat our symptoms. He's not coming to tell us that we're okay. He's coming to provide a cure. Jesus had to step into our sickness and our brokenness and our sin and take all of that upon himself. He came to absorb all of the brokenness, all of the sickness, all of the sin. The result of sin is death, and he actually died because the weight of sin and sickness was so heavy. But he rose from the grave 3 days later. He defeated the power of death, decay, and sickness, and he offers us a way, a door out of our brokenness, providing healing that restores us physically, mentally, emotionally, but most importantly, he restores our relationship with God and mends our hearts from the inside out. And so for us to take this medicine, if you will, to take the cure that Jesus has provided, he just says to turn and to trust. If you think about it, if you are diagnosed with cancer, you have to receive the treatment. You have to quit following the ways that you think is going to lead you out and actually take the cure and trust in it. So we turn and we trust. And ultimately, what Jesus is looking for is kingship in our lives because he is the great king and the great physician. And when we turn and trust in Jesus, we are healed. we are restored physically, mentally, and emotionally, and most importantly, spiritually, to be connected with God, our Creator, and the great design. And then we pursue a life delivered by restoration rather than our old wounds. So we have to ask ourselves, where do we find ourselves? Do we find ourselves stuck in this sin of sickness? Or have we been healed and restored by the great physician, Jesus, and been reconciled to the Father? And then are we pursuing a life of calling others to be restored and healed of their brokenness and sickness?